G'day, it's your old mate Matthew here from the Yarnsman. Today we're doing a slightly different podcast. We've got Nic Sewell on from RAD Bike to share the journey there and how they support the community, which is a fantastic organisation. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Good afternoon and welcome to the Yarnsman podcast. This afternoon we have Nic Sewell from RAD Bikes. I mean, it's not just about RAD Bikes for him. He's an architect, a father, and a husband. Good afternoon, Nic. How are you, mate?
Kia ora, Matthew. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a nice sunny Friday afternoon, so it's a good place to be in the week.
That's right. Yeah, let's hope we're articulate on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So we're going to do things slightly differently today. We're going to start with our four questions about how Nic's going. Then we're going to jump into talking about RAD Bikes and his journey really around creating community and supporting people in that. So it's sort of slightly different to the usual one, but I think it's a good yarn nonetheless. So we'll jump into it. What have you struggled with in the last week?
Oh, well, it's a health complaint, which is a bit of an old guy thing, but I've had a bout of sciatica that started off last year, and it's been a big part of my last 12 months is managing that. And I clearly made some bad decisions over the weekend, and it came back again. So that's definitely been the thing I've been struggling with this week.
Sciatica, is that your back?
Well, I mean, yes, it sort of is, but the sciatica is the nerve pain, and that's the only symptom I get. So it's down my right leg, it gets really sore, and it's a delayed pain, so it's not associated with any specific movement or action. It just sort of builds up slowly. And I went through MRIs and went to the back surgeon and stuff last year, and no one really gave me a decent diagnosis of what it was. It's just more than likely to be a prolapsed disc in my lower back. But,
oh, right.
Yeah, but nothing that was treatable or was really obvious on any scans, and so I was just getting better. They said just keep doing whatever it is you're doing, and hopefully you'll keep getting better.
Right. So this is the classic we're getting older type stuff.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah.
What would you like to work on in the next week?
Well, yeah, it's related to that. But the back problem is notoriously sort of a holistic problem. It's not an acute physical thing, and so I have to make sure I do my exercises regularly. And back when I was in serious pain, I was doing lots of lying on the ground and breathing and funny little stretches during work, and got my sit-stand desk and all that kind of stuff, which is great. And that was all part of the recipe that got me managing it. So I just got to remember to actually stick to the things I know work and not just give myself excuses for skipping them because I'm feeling a bit lazy.
I think that everyone can be guilty of that. And, It's a bit like, I suppose, the mental health journey. It's all about balance and moderation. Part of the time is this struggle is to practice what we preach. So completely feel you there. What are you proud of?
Well, in general, I found this one hard to think about because pride is, not a concept that I'm drawn to normally. Pride comes before the fall. I try not to be too proud of, personal things. But what I realized was that I'm really proud of my kids for no great reason. I just think they're really fun, and they're learning things which I'm still struggling to learn now. And I'm just proud of them in general.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
What gives you hope?
Again, it's my kids again, because they're embodying a lot of the things that I'm trying to work through professionally and through RAD and other things I do. They do that stuff naturally. It just comes to them. The better incorporation of Te Ao Māori in their lives and the way they speak and what they do, which is, a thing professionally, which is looked down upon, but also personally something we try and, build up, and they just do it. And also their attitudes to work and learning, and are things which I aspire to too. So they give me hope.
Yeah, cool. That's great. Good positive stuff. Now, diving into to RAD bikes, tell us about it. Give us the reason for starting and a bit of the journey.
Sure. Well, it's quite old now. We had our 10th birthday last year, and it was a project that started in post-quake Christchurch, and it was the sort of thing that I'd come back to Christchurch to get involved with, because I turned up just after the quakes, and it was an idea that had been bouncing around in my brother's head for a long time, and he was part of the gap filler. He was employed by gap fillers, part of that community, to start projects in little bits of the city and move them around to try and enliven things. And so it's sort of his idea, but I'm a keen cyclist, and I like projects, so I got involved too. And so way back then, we built our little tool shed on a site which has now got a building on it, and opened with a couple of hammers and a hacksaw a few nights a week to notionally let people come in and help them fix their bikes. And we sort of had no idea what we were doing then. That was part of the fun, was that we knew that bike kitchens existed throughout the world, and they're kind of a popular and slightly cool anarchic thing, but none of us had actually ever been to any proper ones before. My brother had been to the Mechanical Tempest in Wellington, but we sort of didn't know what we were up to, what we were about, and had very little bike mechanic experience as well. So the first years actually were lots of hammers and hacksaws and crescent wrenches and things which are now basically banned from the workshop. But the whole thing, the big idea behind us starting was to have some tools and have a little bit of expertise to help people fix their own bikes and sort of go on a learn together, but it's especially help encourage people to get their hands dirty and work on their bikes themselves, because a lot of it's simple and you can do it yourself. And so learning and being involved has been a big part of RAD's kaupapa as we've grown. And so that shed we've been using for almost the full 10 years. Only recently we've outgrown it, and it's moved around the city, and our collection of tools has increased vastly. And we've learned a lot about what we're offering and who we're serving, and what it's all about during that time. When we first started out, we wanted to be open all the time so that anyone could come down and help out. And so we tried to open every night of the week. And being a new project, we only had a handful of volunteers. And so we'd have to split it all up, so one person to go down there for every night of the week. And it was really dire the first winter. Didn't have power in the shed. And so I bought some old storm lanterns, not the tilly ones where you pump it up with pressure and it's really bright and makes a noise, just the real stink kerosene lanterns, which hardly make any light at all. So I'd be sitting in this cold shed by yourself with a couple of kerosene lanterns, and no one knew about RAD either, so you wouldn't get many people except maybe a friend who felt sorry for you and came to visit. And so we really quickly learned that we needed to look after our own community. Like, it was no fun being there by yourself. We needed to have workshops where we were all there together and we could work on stuff together, and also about consistency and for the public, so they know we're going to be there and can turn up. And so we settled on some public workshop dates, and we've been resolutely sticking to always being open unless there's like a civil emergency. Otherwise, every time it rains, you get a bunch of calls from everyone asking if you're open. Are you going to be open? Are you sure you're going to be open? And so we've been quite keen on that consistency, and to make sure the public can find us, and also for our volunteers to make sure they know when to go, and we can have enough people there to keep it fun.
Must have been in those early days. That must have been sitting there in a shed in the cold and dark, going, "Why the fuck are we doing this?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, it absolutely was. Yeah. I think we only lasted a few weeks on that schedule. You only do it two weeks in a row sitting in a shed by yourself before you say, no, that's stupid. We're just not going to do that anymore.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall where that sort of first meeting of someone's sitting in a shed crying by themselves and then being like, no, come down, we've got to have a meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, the meetings were the best bit back in those days because we had formed a reasonable crew building it because we built the shed ourselves just with some bits and pieces. We found some of the old Scott exhibition from the museum and some stuff from the ground and some donated materials. And and so there was quite a tight bunch of people who had all bonded over building that. And I was actually just going to the pub afterwards, were our meetings. And so we'd often just go down to the pub and talk about things. So it didn't take long for us to all be at the pub at the same time and say, it's stupid, we're not going to do that anymore. we're going to consolidate what we're offering.
Yeah, I love that.
And
Let's dive into the kind of community building aspect. So, one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating about RAD Bikes and kind of part of the reason for reaching out is I'm a massive fan of what I'll call social prescribing. So, getting people to do something where they have purpose and value. And so I view fixing a bike gives people like a bit of agency and also the opportunity to work alongside people. Guys talk. I think there's research. Guys talk best when they're working beside each other. So I think that's a really important part. So thinking about the community development piece, I'm keen to hear how you started to grow it out from just your mates and network.
Yeah, well, we didn't have an idea about marketing, and so it has been really organic, and largely word of mouth because we don't have a budget to spread the word. And while we feel that what we're doing is important and visible, and actually slightly strange in those early days when we were just a shed that would open up sporadically in an otherwise empty lot. And just draw people in. But a key thing that we always come back to is trying to make sure it's fun, cool and fun, is how Jess and I describe it. And nothing makes us feel older than saying this is cool and fun to all the young people involved at RAD. And so we still hold our meetings at the pub and have chips and pizza and that. We try to hold on to sort of the early spirit of just hanging out and doing stuff as much as we can. It becomes increasingly challenging as you try and be more inclusive, because naturally, those early days at the pub we went to was Pomeroy's, and which is great, but it immediately ruled out anyone who doesn't like sort of dingy pubs or who doesn't like booze establishments or who's underage, or who doesn't like spending $16 on a pint and that kind of stuff. And so, we had to, keep branching out. And now we do have several kids involved who regularly turn up to the meetings, and so, want to make sure it's comfortable for those as well as people from all sorts of walks of life who don't want to drink and don't want to be part of that culture as well. So, we've got to keep modifying that as best we can to find the fun and cool and inclusive way to keep everyone involved.
Yeah, I certainly I echo those challenges with the yarnsman and keeping that front in mind and how you do it. So I know it's a real challenge. When you were, I suppose, with your workshops and actually getting people to come along, how did that kind of evolution happen? You've set dates and then the people just started turning up and then became regulars, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we actually have relatively few regular people who turn up just to use the workshop. If they're keen enough and interested enough, we nab them, identify them, and sort of drag them into the volunteer group as quickly as you can. So I suppose probably it's the volunteer core and the volunteer management, which is the main way we get other people to come in. There's I help out my friends, for instance, know that I'm part of RAD, and so every now and then they'll send me a text to ask about something, and so I'll go down with them, hold their hand because they're so scared about turning up at this community. And so all the volunteers tend to have connections like that and bring people in. And if people are interested enough in it that they turn up almost more than 2 times, someone will notice, one of the volunteers, and will shoulder tap them and encourage them to sign up formally as a volunteer and sell the benefits to them. And so that's been a big focus to us, is making sure the volunteers, really get stuff out of it. So the carrot at the beginning is you get the first. As a volunteer, you naturally get the first pick of all this interesting stuff in the shed, or things that come in. If you're there when someone comes in with, sun to a superb set of cranks that looks untouched or something like that, then you kind of got first rights on them. So that's the key perk. But we do a lot of stuff. So we're trying to also structure the education, learning how to fix bikes being a key part of what RAD's about. We have separate sessions for the volunteers as well with the mechanic, and so they're quite structured learning sessions that follow a course. And theoretically, at the end, you can get a wee certificate to put on your wall to say that we've done the Park Tools mechanics course. So we offer that for free for all the volunteers to turn up, and it's volunteer only as well, which does make a big difference because it can be much more focused, and the numbers are, at least the ratio is okay, so that the mechanic can work with that number of people. And we also have workshop sessions or sessions at RAD which are volunteer only or club only, because those public sessions, which we've been doing regularly throughout RAD's life, and are really the key reason for its being, they are quite hard work, and that's something we've learned throughout the years, is that people who turn up needing help with the bike come from all sorts of walks of life and different levels of knowledge, and different sort of willingness to learn and get their hands dirty and stuff too. And so it's a really big ask getting someone to try and fix a complete stranger's bike, teaching them while you go and be comfortable and confident about leaving it in a roadworthy state, as well as having an enjoyable and uplifting experience with this person. It's actually a huge deal. And a lot of the people who go to RAD aren't looking for, challenging might be the wrong word, but, varied experiences in social situations. They're going there to tinker with bikes, go and hang out in the shed. And so we're becoming more and more structured about the people that are sort of in that front of house zone, dealing with people walking in off the street, as the more mechanically minded or organisationally minded people who might be out the back dismantling bikes or fixing parts and that kind of thing.
Tell us about some of those challenges of people. I don't know if you can share all the stories, but tell us about some of those stories of the challenges with supporting people and having them come along.
Yeah, well, we've I'll kind of say names. I'm really bad at dropping names in, but I can
edit them out.
You can shut that out. Yeah, put a bleep over it. Yeah, so we have all sorts of people coming. There are lots of people from the street. Obviously, they have limited resources, and so bikes are a big part of their lives, and so they're facing a variety of challenges, including social challenges or drug or alcohol challenges. And so those people turn up in all sorts of states, ranging from just grumpy to incomprehensible and inarticulate and demanding. And so there's some real basic health and safety things that go on with that. And we for several months we had a Russian guy, I think he's Russian, who turned up, and he was legless drunk every single time. But he'd just come and watch, and occasionally we ended up trying to have a few exchanges with him. He said he just wanted to hang out and sort of feel a sense of community and see what was going on. And so that's right at the passive end of the spectrum. But he was a regular guy who would just sit there and watch us work legless every night. But we have people who are much more keen to be actively involved, including guys who with pretty significant mental disabilities, like struggle to read or articulate themselves, but love helping and love fixing things and being part of it. And so there's a couple in particular who are just so desperate to be there and they're always so nice, and they can genuinely remember our names after a few years, even though they get it wrong sometimes. And come in, and so sort of managing those people it's almost a one-to-one need to look after them, make sure they're getting something out of experience without detracting it from other people as well. And so, yeah, we're some of those people, we've got the numbers of their minders, and so every 6 months or 12 months, whatever it is, we have to give them a call and tell them that we need a cool down period where they just have to stay away for a bit, sorry, so that we can focus on other things, because we're also very conscious about what it looks like to other people. There were periods when we were outside on the commons where there'd be a Russian friend sitting or lying on the ground drinking his bottle of red wine, and some people jabbering away incomprehensibly about things and getting up in everyone's faces, and some really strong smelling people in a really, really tiny shed. And so, for a lot of people turning up and seeing that, it's really off-putting. And I learned the phrase from you last time we chatted: you've got to be exclusive to be inclusive sometimes. And so, that's something that we've really difficult to find the right balance. But we're slowly learning about that, and some of those sessions where we have the salvage nights, which is volunteer only, are really great for that, because it means you can either get some of those volunteers who don't want to be part of that stuff, away from it and doing something in a really safe, predictable, and fun environment, or you can channel some of that energy, that frantic energy of people who want to help but don't know what to do, into furiously vacuum cleaning things when no one else is around, or sweeping things. And it's genuinely helpful for us, and they seem to like it. So just need to bring some delicate structure to it without coming off as too authoritative, I suppose.
This must have been I was just saying, it's like almost a good management challenge for you guys. And do you think you've become a lot more patient and empathetic through this whole process, or the last 10 years?
Yeah. I actually think I have. Yeah. And especially when I was the one that did Wednesday nights during winter for a couple of years, because that's a hard volunteer spot to fill in the dark, in the cold, on just standing in the gravel. And by that stage, we always had people turning up. So you're genuinely trying to fix people's bikes, and if they're there on a dark, cold night, it's because they really need it done. And so I was the one there, and it was during those nights when it was the people in real need of turning up that I did have to view it as a sort of opportunity to grow myself, as sort of in a leadership and patient kind of way, to listen carefully and make sure that the other volunteers who were there, because there were always some who turn up, weren't getting dragged into impossible or cold tasks and that kind of thing. And so I think I did grow a bit, but I was also happy to stop doing it on Wednesday night once we moved inside. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
But I one of the reasons we started RAD was because I like doing things with my hands and like mucking around with bikes too. So I'm one of those guys who is going there at least partly to tinker with bikes during the day. I sit at my desk typing up angry emails. It feels like that's mostly my job, getting snotty about things. And so going and working on those projects and physical things and mechanical problems with direct solutions it's really nice. And dealing with people, just normal people on those direct solutions is really nice too. But I quite like the fiddling too. And so I had to have a bit of a mind shift that I wasn't going to be able to go and work on anything on those evenings. Was just there to sort of try and manage and help as best I could.
That would have been, I suppose that's quite a journey, because the hands-on doing, when you're doing a community venture, you need to be able to support and guide, right? So that's an important lesson. It's all really interesting stuff. Before we wrap up, I was quite keen to hear some of your successes, perhaps, or some. I'm a stats and data guy. If you've got anything to share.
Oh, oh, geez, is fantastic with sets. No, I can't look it up now. We do record all the hours. We've got a scoreboard where we tally up the number of people who've come in, the bikes that come in, the bikes gone out, and it's the numbers are terrifying. They're huge, and the numbers of volunteer hours is huge too. But the personal stories, yeah, are always the best, rather than the big numbers to send to the funders. And there's a few ones that we always go on about, but it's because they're great stories. And so early on in RAD's life, like 5 or 6 years ago, we had some really keen cyclists turn up, and they just RAD just seemed to click with them perfectly. A couple of guys from Birmingham, and we get a lot of travellers because they tend to have the time and the inclination to go and do stuff like that. And so these guys were like that, but they just really got right into RAD, and they loved cycling, and so built themselves up bikes, rode locally, became really good friends with all the crew, and were super regular and generous volunteers for ages, and so much so that at one point they had to move out of their hostel they're living in and didn't have the next hostel lined up, and so they lived in the RAD shed when it was down on the commons. Yeah, going to the little public toilet and sleeping in there. So they lived and breathed it, and were super keen. And eventually they moved on. They've gone their separate ways. But one of them, Kest, in particular, was so taken by RAD that when he went back to England, he sought out a similar scheme, and went down. It wasn't quite the same as RAD, but he persevered and actually became a qualified mechanic, and is now has a job in a bike shop as a mechanic, and it's solely from that journey from starting at RAD and working with people and working on bikes, and now he's there, and he actually said that it saved his life. When he came to New Zealand, he was travelling because his family had some really bad health problems. He wasn't sure what he was up to in Birmingham, and didn't have sort of a career path or anything like that. So he was travelling to figure out what he was doing. And RAD was part of the thing that sort of helped him figure out what he's doing. And he's as far as I know, I haven't heard from him for a year, I don't think, but he's still a mechanic, and it's still on the path that RAD set him on, all those years ago, which is really cool. And he comes back and visits every few years, so we'll probably be seeing him again soon.
This is just such a fantastic story, and when I think about the social prescribing and having purpose, and having connection through an activity or that purpose, is just this is bloody fantastic. If everyone had their purpose or a thing, it would make the world a better place.
Yeah, well, he was such a great example of it too, because he's not sort of naturally extroverted or open or emotionally available. He has a tough little cookie, and he had funny piercings and aggressive tattoos. He's really into Birmingham metal and that kind of stuff. But he was also really genuine and an authentic guy. And so he ended up doing a lot of the after schools programs with the kids, where the kids sign up for a term and they come along and fiddle around with bikes. And because he's a clever kind of guy, he could weld. They ended up making like Frankenstein tricycles with the kids, and doing that stuff, which is really great, because he didn't come across as a kid friendly or that kind of guy at all. But he through that working on stuff together, he really got on with them, and they made some cool connections and did some cool work. Yeah, it was great.
That is great. How can people come and find you and come to some of your workshops? I guess I'll put links to the links to the website and socials in the episode details. But give us the spiel.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've got a website, radbikes.co.nz, and Facebook is where we do most of our organising. So that's where we hear about most of our events. But the thing we always tell people is, if you're interested, just turn up and come and check it out. So the public sessions are Sundays 12 to 4 and Wednesdays 6:30 to 8:30. And it's just walk in. So you can walk in and see what's going on and chat to people. And if you're interested, stick around and do some work. We do have a volunteer sign up page on the website too. So if you just want to go and check that out, you can sign up, and that'll automatically link you into the comms about what's going on. There'll be various, outside of those public workshops, various charity fix-ups and private sessions and workshop courses and stuff going on as well.
Yeah. Mate, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and more about RAD Bikes. I need to come and get a bike, and hopefully we can do some cool stuff together. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. All good.